Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello. We are
I
praying
need
to
to
the
take a
gods
moment
of the
to
internet that this
that it works
works,
this
right?
week.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
we
still in
had
the Holly Hobby bedroom and okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
major tech issues last week. I was going to take a moment to appreciate my outfit, which is inspired by BJ Honeycutt of MASH. He always wears short sleeve gray sweatshirts, and I even have on green kind of cargo
Teagues.
pants. Yeah, I've been watching a
Nice.
lot of MASH lately, and he is my one of my favorites. So as I got dressed this morning, he was my inspiration.
Peace out. I love that. I love the reference. I love the owning of it. I love that
Yeah.
this will make people go to YouTube to see your outfit because it
Check
won't
it out.
translate on
Did
the
anyone know
podcast.
that BJ Honeycutt was a fashion icon? You heard it here first.
Right. Love it.
Okay, so we are still in the lucky position of having topics at our ready suggested to us by our lovely listeners. And this week we have a topic from yet another awesome former colleague of mine from Edelman. This topic idea comes from David Armano, who I worked with for a number of years. And he wanted us to talk about the rise of full time creators on LinkedIn. Excuse me, he actually wrote a really, really long post about this. Too long for me to read the whole thing here, even though I just subjected Casey listening to me read the whole thing to her just for the purposes of prepping her.
For
But I am going to
context.
read one for context, yes. I'm going to read one paragraph that I think distills his issue quite well, and then we're going to get into it. Okay. It's inevitable that the algorithms here gradually become more like TikTok, more video, more talking heads speaking into a mic. And I have nothing against video, but I'm hearing and seeing more from content creators whose job, as far as I can tell, has always been content. They've never mastered anything in a field other than full time content creation. What happens when our feeds are filled with professional content creators, both organic and synthetic? And then he has AI in parentheses. And then I'm going to pop up to the top of his post a little bit just to give some context to what he's saying when he's saying that their job has always just been content. He's saying, my issue with full-time creators is that they are just that. They often lack any real-world experience working in the corporate world or academia or in the fields they cover, in quotes. Not all of
Mhm.
them, but I think it's fair to say most of them. So I think that's the gist of it. If you want to read the whole thing, it's from a week ago on David Armano's LinkedIn. And I am copying a link
Which
to
will be
this
2 weeks
now.
ago by the time this comes
Two
out.
weeks ago, correct. And that all sounds very complicated to me. So, what I'm going to do is put a link to his post in the comments of my promotion of this episode to make it
Perfect.
easier for everyone. But so I kind of get what he's saying, and I think it's even before the rise of all of this on LinkedIn. I feel like this has frequently been a source of frustration for me. I guess it kind of started on Twitter, just these people who are just really blowhards, like just talking about all this stuff in the marketing world without any context of their own, without any experience of their own. So, like, their expertise comes from talking about it, not actually doing it.
Mm.
And I mean, I share David's frustration in that. And then I think we've all been complaining a lot about the LinkedIn algorithm lately. And
Mm.
it is,
Yeah.
I do feel that in addition to prioritizing Ragebait, which is a whole other topic, I think it also is prioritizing these people who are full time creators without a corporate or academic background, without that real underlying expertise in this area.
Let me
That's
quickly
it.
ask you. Yeah. Let me quickly ask you because you have also been participating in or observing an adjacent phenomena, which is voices that are being suppressed. Cindy Gallup,
Yeah.
women in general. Are you making any connection there between creators who are just mouthpieces for an industry that they don't really have deep experience with and LinkedIn's algorithm doing its wonky dark magic? Or is that not part of
Much
this
as
conversation?
yeah, I don't think it is. I mean, much as I would like to say it's all a giant conspiracy, and everything's terrible and it's all interconnected. I actually think in this case, it's two separate issues. I mean, I think they're both algorithmically, this is a rough one. I think they are both algorithmically, they are related and algorithmically related. I think they're related from the perspective of the algorithm, but I think it's two separate issues. I think one is that the algorithm, whether it was purposeful or not, has been built in such a way that it is suppressing certain voices. That's one thing. I think the second thing is that the content being produced by these professional content creators, where that's all they do is create this content, they don't work on this professionally, I think that is appealing to the algorithm. And some of it there could be some ties back and forth. I mean, some of it could be because they know how to push those buttons. They know what's going to stand out and get the clicks and get the virality. But I do think it's two separate issues. I think it's, you and I both know this. We are professionals. We are running agencies. We also love LinkedIn, spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, rely on LinkedIn for putting forth our thought leadership and winning new business and getting in front of potential clients, keeping our existing clients engaged. But it's hard to do that when you're also running a business. It takes a lot of time to think of stuff to write, to craft it carefully, to not rely entirely on AI for writing your posts, and then not to mention like all of the engagement that has to be done on LinkedIn to satisfy that algorithm, all of the commenting that you have to do, all of that engaging. There are days where I feel like that's my job. Like running the company or whatever, like my job is like being this person on LinkedIn.
Yeah. To be on the hamster wheel of LinkedIn.
To be on the hamster wheel of LinkedIn while running a company. And oh, hey, look at this. We also have a house and a family.
Yeah. Like, what's that?
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. So it's not surprising to me that these professional full-time content creators are kind of killing it. That's all they're doing.
Right. And to paint the picture even more vividly, what you're saying is not only do we as business owners have competition of legitimate other agencies or freelancers or contractors who are in our space doing our thing, now we have this competition for amplification and visibility with people who are just creating content about it and making it harder for us to break through. When is this right? Like, and so I have two issues. I see two different issues here. The first is my willingness to look at folks talking about influencer and creator marketing and treating everybody equally. Like, they must know what they're talking. Like, I'm part of the problem because I engage with those content creators as though they are legitimate sources of information. And then I get behind the scenes and it's like George Costanza figuring out the comeback days later. Like days later, it hits me. Why am I buying into that person's quote unquote thought leadership when it is a bunch of malarkey? Like so I think there's that piece that you might be talking about.
But I'll
like
tell
it is
you
making
why.
it harder.
I'll answer that question for you. You're doing it because even though it is malarkey, we sound like Joe Biden, even though it is malarkey, like it worked. I mean, I look at, you now can see the impressions, the number of impressions you get from comments, and like it totally sucks and it's so gross that we have to do this. But the fact of the matter is, oftentimes the comments on those completely uneducated, purely for the purpose of Ragebait posts, like the comments I make on something stupid like that gets like hundreds times more impressions than a post that I spend my time carefully crafting and thinking through and based on my experience. And so you're rewarded. Like, yeah, sure, you can look back on it a couple days later and feel like George Costanza, but the reality is that you kind of that's part of the hamster wheel.
Right. And so I agree with you about this algorithm and even the comments. To your point, it's not just that my comments on a Ragebait contrarian post get way more impressions than my own thought leadership. Even and I'm going to go there, am starting to distinguish what's worth commenting on versus not. And sometimes it has to do, I don't hold back commenting, but I can see like, I'm going to put a comment on this piece of shit post and it's going to drive so much impressions for me. And then the organic, like you and I talking to each other, or some of our other favorite colleagues who are really lifting up this industry and delightful to interact with, I'll still comment there, but I know that that is just like shouting into the wind sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I think you do the same thing that I do. Like, I have my list of people who I am trying to lift up, who I think are awesome and smart and who I want to engage with. And I will always comment when they post something to help with the algorithm. And I'm laughing when I say that because it's like, it's just feels so gross. But like, you do
So
what
calculated.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have my list of favorites of, goodies that I
Mm-hmm.
try to engage with. But, and then there's the stuff that you just see, oh my God, this stupid thing that's not even an issue. And they're like making up this fake influencer marketing issue and then saying like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I have the solution. Like the whole thing is just like complete mumbo jumbo, but it's like just putting nonsense out in the world. And I guess I'm going to go in there and set the record straight and put my name out there with a smart opinion and hope that that's the good that's coming out of it, and knowing that it's going to get all these impressions. Like it's
Yeah.
feels
I've,
nuts sometimes.
I've, I've embraced, and you can see this in my LinkedIn profile now, I've embraced putting the hot in psychotic. Like I am on a mission to get out there and to out crazy sometimes these like somebody put yesterday, what we don't realize is like the psychology behind this, like fact A, influencers love long-term deals. Therefore, all this other stuff, right? So if you believe A, then everything else. And I was like, do we really believe A? Like I have to stop and say, wait a minute, there's a premise here that
Yeah.
you're enticing us all to believe. And I'm not on board with that. So yeah, I'm out there trying to, because polite isn't necessarily doing it, like just
Right.
quietly showing up like a wallflower. Like I'm out there trying to, I'll admit it, like flame these people. That was a Kamala Harris, like people during the debate, these people who are, I think, dangerous to our industry and to our ability to evolve and mature this
Yeah.
industry.
I mean, I go
Now,
back and yeah.
well, I wanted to
Sorry, keep
say,
going.
no, I have a very deep conviction that what we're talking about lends to the conversation of the difference between creators and influencers that I've held to and developed over the last couple of years. Creators are about cultural currency. They are about relevance in whatever topic. So I don't even think it's just marketing. It's just you and I are affected by the marketing conversation. And influencers are folks, in my mind, who have built up thought leadership. They are subject matter experts, even if they're not credentialed and licensed and have a bunch of letters after their names. They have been baking, I use this all the time, baking gluten-free recipes for their own family for 3 to 5 years. And there's a reason then that I want to know what they have to say. And so while I don't know that that was the intent of this discussion or even the post that you're referencing, I think it's worth paying attention to because in my mind, that's some of the danger of how this industry is evolving and being masked by the creator conversation. I don't think it's the same conversation as the influencer conversation. And to link them together is as dangerous to me as letting these voices that aren't experts crowd us out as thought leaders.
But
How about
I
that?
guess I think you're right. I think you're right. And if you're looking at the content that we're putting out based on 15, 20 years plus experience, and then the content that creators on the platform are putting out based on no experience and just an ability to make something that sounds pithy, sure, I agree with that. I guess, I mean, and maybe this is just my frustration showing, but who cares? Like, not who cares, but at the end of the day, people are consuming all of this content. And if that stuff is performing well and is reaching people, I don't think the end consumers of that content are sitting there and making the distinction between that. Like, if I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but like, sure, you and I can say, like, well, that's a creator and we are actually influencers. And so that makes us feel better. But at the end of the day, if our content is not reaching those people, or if it's even like, let's be generous and say it's going to reach as many people as those creators, the people consuming it are not like stopping to put the voice behind that content into that category. And they're not saying like, oh, well, that's a creator, so I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. Oh, that's an influencer, so I know this is coming from, years of experience and it's a trusted voice. Like, that distinction is like, it's all well and good that you and I can make that distinction and maybe it makes us feel better, but that distinction is not being made by the people who are consuming the content. So we still end up with the same problem at the end of the day.
Yes.
Not to be a negative Nelly.
And no, I appreciate the pushback because I'm looking at it always toward being a steward of the industry of influencer marketing and learning from this dichotomy to better educate brands on why an influencer campaign looks much different than a creator campaign. So I think there's almost like this micro and macro going on. So I do think it's important what you just said also, because how can we say to a brand, you should be working with influencers, not creators, when you just pointed out at the end of the day, the audience wants the zhuzh and the cultural relevance of a creator. So I disagree with that piece. And I think there's a gap in there that either will naturally, organically right itself, and I'll talk about that in a second, or that we can push back on and do a better job of leveraging influencers in our work for brand clients. For us, I think the cream rises to the top. And I think all those creator voices, especially synthetic AI, or those who are informing their writing heavily, not their writing, they're thinking heavily with AI, are becoming one note. They're becoming easy to spot, boring. And so, yeah, I think there's a quick like sizzle when they hit the pan, and then I think it's going to burn out. That's where I think organically things will. You and I just have to play the long game and keep saying important, interesting things. And those surface, vanity accounts, people will tire of them.
I think on a different post, the same David Armano and I got into I had posted just my frustrations with the algorithm on LinkedIn, and then I was getting more impressions on my angry comments than I was from my well thought out posts. And he was saying, maybe you just lean into the anger, because if you're getting impressions from it and you're ending up with more followers, which I am, like, you can now see how many followers you gained from a certain comment. It's very interesting. He's like, at the end of the day, if it's getting you more eyes and ears on what you're putting out there, maybe it's worth it. And it sounds like you, with your putting the hot and psychotic, you're kind of all in on that. Right. And I think I'm still feeling like, but do I have to?
Sure.
Dragging my feet, right? But I mean, I think like
right. Can you stay true to yourself?
Reluctantly. Right. Can you stay true to yourself if you have to lean into this rage baity environment in order to get the eyeballs? And maybe you just say at the end of the day, you know what, I have really helpful, good things to say, and I am a good person putting good out into the world. And if the only way I'm going to get people to see that and to notice that is to be putting my feet into the dark, seedy side of things and taking advantage of that viral juice that's out there, like, maybe that's a small price to pay for propelling myself and my ideas forward.
Well, there's so much to unpack there, because I think that feels like a very two far ends of the spectrum. Like, I'm going to play nice and be a good person. I don't feel like a bad person because I'm saying what I think. I think embracing putting the hot and psychotic is much more on brand for me. If you remember when we talked about doing this podcast and you invited me, I said, Danielle, this only works if I'm totally off the leash, like totally untethered. And I haven't necessarily been that. So it is, to me, a progression back to me just like having no fucks left to give around
Yeah.
lots of these issues and making people feel good about themselves. I mean, I'm not out to ruin and, wreck relationships. I'm just here to like say it how it is. So I think I'm confident I'm a good person while still doing that. The other thing I want to say though, in any business, in any industry, you and I are getting far more traction and, let's say at the end of the day, even revenue from 20% of our activity than the 80% that we feel like maybe pressed to put out there. So I would argue that you or any of us don't have to play the algorithm. We don't have to engage necessarily in something that doesn't suit us or feel right, because our sort of enriched 20% is all we need. What do you think about that?
I don't know that I agree. I think you have to do that. Like, you can't just do the 20% and ignore the 80%, because what I'm seeing is that and this gets back to the throttling of the algorithm. Like, I truly feel that with the state of where the algorithm is at now and where the platform is at now, if I just stuck to that 20% and just put out my smart content and like did my thing and didn't engage in some of the other stuff, I think that 20% would dwindle down to 5 or 6%. I don't think I'd get the eyeballs on it. I put out, like, I think it was last week, I shared out my newsletter on LinkedIn, and 2% of my subscribers saw it. Like, that's
And
crazy.
then you feel like it becomes attrition. Like, you've got to almost over index on the visibility piece. But maybe, well, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I agree with you. I'm thinking that having good content, strong thought leadership in a voice that you're comfortable with and really reflects you, when leads, prospects, colleagues go looking for your profile, they will see that. That's the proof point. That's the thought leadership, as opposed to, do we think we're getting business out of the comments and the rage bait that we respond to? Are people coming right to us and saying, ooh, I've got to hire you?
You're smart. I mean, maybe, like I said, like, I gained followers from my angry comment that I posted last week, which was actually a reply to your angry comment that you posted last week. Like, I gained followers from it. So, like, did they pay me for something immediately? No, but it builds up my following. It's someone who's now potentially going to see my content in their feed. It just elevates my presence.
Okay, so hold on. Will you talk with me about that? Is that the comment about misogyny and elitism?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't find that comment of yours to be particularly rageful. I think it was clarifying. Like, this, let's call this what it is. And so any followers that you got from that, I feel like would resonate. They have the same ethos in life. They have the same motivations in life. Like, wouldn't that be great?
Listen, I think the guy who posted the original post is an asshole. I think his comment and his philosophy on running a company is indeed misogynistic and elitist. I firmly believe in everything I had to say. I am not typically the type of person to be walking around and calling people misogynists and elitists to their face. I'm putting that in air quotes because this was on LinkedIn. So, like, yes, it was true. Yes, I stand by it. No, that's not typically how I talk to humans. I typically just turn the other way and think that's not someone who I want to engage with. He is an asshole and I don't like those. And I will walk the other way. Like, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to engage here and jump into the fray and let's see what happens. But that's not typically. And that was the conversation I had with David, where he's like, well, it seems like you just should. People like Angry Danielle. And then I was joking, like, my marketing team always loves Angry Danielle. Like, when I get pissed off and just start saying stuff, like, it seems to resonate with others. And maybe it's not to bring this all into gender things, but I think there's something to be said for, like, we're kind of taught to keep that inside and not be so bitchy and forward and put everything out there. And maybe I need to, like, be like, you know what? Like, well, I don't agree with that anymore. And I am going to speak up when I see something. And it's not me being bitchy, it's me putting forth my voice and sharing an alternate opinion that's
Right. And I'm
correct.
hearing you say too, it feels like a slippery slope, like a
Yeah,
Pandora's box. Like if I keep doing this and then I sink into this cesspool, and am I no better than the rage baiters in the first place?
totally. Yes.
And is it a business model? The comment that I made, I know that I was very careful about connecting it back to his business model and why I thought what he wrote was overlooking how he serves his community. So it was very structured, very intentionally, sort of to not be super emotional because I felt really emotional about it. But you're saying there's a step beyond that where maybe as women in business, we're like, gloves are off. I don't need to make a structured argument that benefits my bottom line and has all the hallmarks of like, you know, PR plan. I'm just pissed and I want to just say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you're on a journey of figuring out if that is right for you, if that feels good,
Yeah.
or if it's kind of gratuitous.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like, because I think in an ideal, and we should probably wrap this up soon, we could like go rant forever, but like
Yeah.
in an ideal world, I'm known for being very smart and elevating voices, especially voices of women, and running a company that takes care of its employees and puts beautiful work out there. And I'm smart and all these things. Like
Thoughtful. Yes.
that feels really nice to me. Like, oh, that mean person who always speaks her mind and calls people names on LinkedIn feels a little bit less
Right.
delightful, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I worry about becoming known for get off my lawn. Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's
Yeah.
Casey in the comments again, just like, flaming everybody. I don't want that either. I'm with you on that
Yeah.
piece.
I think
Yeah.
we're both, I
Okay.
mean, to tie this up with a bow, I think we're both doing a pretty good job right now of straddling the line, speaking up when we need to, trying to ground it in some kind of context and truth, but also not falling completely into that only. We are also
This.
continuing to put out great, interesting content that has nothing to do with the rage bait world.
Yeah.
So I think to
And
just like give ourselves some kudos. I think we're doing a good job of doing what we need to on each of those sides to maintain our integrity and keep our voices out there.
and what people will never know is how many of those posts we just let go by. We don't comment. We
We just
serenity
text
now
each other.
ourselves. That's right. We shake our fists somewhat invisibly, and we're very mature. And so kudos to us, because that probably
Yes.
is 95% of the shit we see out there. We're just like, not today, Satan, not
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Well, this has been
Okay.
good. I'm glad you
On
brought this
that
up.
note,
Yeah. Go get
we
them.
will see you all next week.
See you then.